This lesson is solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. And then day 2, we'll classify roots using the discriminant. So the quadratic formula first is here in the middle. If we're in standard form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a doesn't equal 0, then we can find the solutions or the roots by taking the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we can use the quadratic formula to solve any quadratic equation as long as it is written in standard form. And that's including equations if we have real solutions or complex solutions. Remember, complex solutions are with the letter I. Okay, so the first thing we do is set the function equal to 0. Then use your quadratic formula, which is our roots x equal opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared is 4ac all over 2a. The next step is to substitute in our a, b, and c's. So first thing you need to do is find what a is. A is the coefficient of x squared, which is 1. B, coefficient of x. And c, the constant. So then we substitute into our quadratic formula. Opposite of b, negative 10, plus or minus b squared, which is 10 squared, and if it's negative, you make sure we put it in parentheses, minus 4, which is part of the formula, times a, times c, all over 2 times a. Now we simplify that, so that would be opposite of 10 plus or minus 100 minus 8 all over 2, so it's negative 10 plus or minus square root of 92 all over 2. And then we need to write that in simplest form. The square root of 92 is 4 times 92. So, or 4 times, 23, which would be 2 root 23. And you can leave it like that, but the book will split it into the most simplest form, which is dividing by 2. You can check by completing the square. So we have our original and And you see we get the same answer. Okay, so we're going to try each of these. Again, find your A, your B, your C. Substituting into the formula is the opposite of B, plus or minus B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. Square root of 37 does not simplify, so that is our answer. Again, find your A, your B, your C. When you do the opposite of B this time, it's going to be positive. Remember, negative 8 squared is a positive number. And the square root of 24 is 4 times 6. And that simplifies, dividing by 2. So how do I identify values of A, B, and C when a quadratic equation is in standard form? There's your standard form. Quadratic equation is in vertex form. What must we do? We must simplify first. Or make sure you put it in standard form. Okay, what if we have complex zeros? So we have this equation, same thing. Find your A, find your B, your C. It's opposite of B, plus or minus B squared minus 4 A C all over 2A. Four times 2 is 8 times 2 is 16. And we can't leave the square root of a negative number. And 15 doesn't simplify any more than that. So this is 1 plus or minus I root 15 over 4. And a lot of times they will split. Remember that the square root of negative 1 equals I. So find the zeros of this function using the quadratic formula. opposite of b, plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Four times 3 is 12, times 8 is 96. And the square root of 95 doesn't simplify any more than the fact that it's a imaginary. And again, we split the fraction. And how do you simplify the square root of a negative number? Recalling that square root of negative 1 equals I. This assignment is on Schoology. It's not the same. So this ends day 1.